It's been so long. An Adrienette Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction, part 31. Marinette was anxiously watching the clock. The moment school let out, it was go time. After what felt like forever, the clock changed and Marinette transformed. Back in her suit, Ladybug swung out of the balcony into her own school. There were swarms of students leaving the school. They were all milling around and talking loudly with each other. Ladybug's eyes searched through the crowd, looking for the brunette girl that caused all of this madness. The moment Lila came out of the school, Nino, Ollie, and Adrian were by her side. Ladybug's eyes narrowed, but she moved from her hiding place. The anger in her bubbled when Lila gave Adrian a kiss on the cheek. God, she knew he didn't like it either, but the view just made her feel sick. Ladybug snuck up closer to the school. Her goal was for Lila to spot her, but most everyone else to be oblivious. The plan didn't seem to be working super well, as now Lila was surrounded by hordes of cooing girls. Blah. How could they stand her, much less worship her this way? Ladybug's scowl deepened. It took a few more minutes, but eventually Ladybug was able to get into Lila's field of vision, and the brunette's nostrils seemed to flare. The smallest crack in Lila's facade. She said something to the friends around her and made her way towards Ladybug. Ladybug, I'm so glad you're back. I'm glad to see you saw my text, Lila said in a fake voice. Ladybug frowned at her deeply. Drop the act, Lila, Ladybug hissed. Lila laughed and threw her hair behind her head. Sorry, did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed or something? She said in a condescending voice. Ladybug's hand tightened into a fist behind her back. Whew, she needed to control herself. No need to start a fight. Things were more or less controlled. I know your game, Ladybug said in a deceitfully even voice. Lila looked at her nails boredly. Really, she said. And what are you going to do about that? Lila said. Ladybug's eyes flickered to the phone that she knew hid the black butterfly. Put an end to it, of course, Ladybug muttered under her breath. Without warning, Ladybug lunged at Lila, shocking her greatly. Her hands just barely slipped past the cell phone in Lila's hands. Lila shrieked, now realizing what Ladybug was trying to do. Oh, you! Lila cried out with a sick laugh. She pulled the phone closer to her chest. Ladybug gritted her teeth together. Mutters of students and civilians began to surround them. People gasped at Lila and Ladybug, but the latter attempted to pay them no mind. Let them be shocked. Let them see that Lila was indeed evil and akumatized. Hand over the phone, Lila, Ladybug said in a thunderous voice. There were gasps ringing throughout the massing crowd. Lila was silent for only a second before bursting into laughter. A sharp, blinking, blinding light formed from her, and Ladybug had to squeeze her eyes tight. What was going on? What was happening? Why was the past couple of days just full of confusion? Lila's cackles rang through the air, but they were mixed in with terrified shrieks of people. When the light faded and Ladybug could open her eyes again, Lila was no longer standing in front of her with an even smile. In her place, there was a purple-haired, green-skinned, akumatized victim. Like I'd ever give you this, Lila laughed, her phone now attached to her hip in its own little pocket, much like a gun holster. Ladybug's eyes went wide and she quickly pulled her yo-yo up, throwing it back. Everyone, back up, she cried. People were screaming and running and in a desperate sense of panic. She motioned for them to spread out and away from Lila, or whoever she had become now. Luckily, Ollie and Adrian were herding people away, sending her worried looks every once in a while. Do me a favor, Ladybug. Do us all a favor, Lila hissed out. Just give me your miraculous and let's just make it easy. Ladybug grinded her teeth together and shook her head. Never! Lila shrugged, unbothered. Fine, we can do it your way too. At once, Lila lunged forwards, and if it weren't for her enhanced reflexes, Lila may have been able to snatch the earrings away from her. Cursing under her breath, Ladybug swung through the air as quickly as she could, getting away from highly crowded places. Lila cackled behind her. You know, I saw you staring. Or stalking, maybe. Oh, it's great to meet a fan. Really, it's flattering. Lila threw at her. Ladybug's throat was almost messed up by the sheer level of emotion and fury that burst into her veins. As if I'd ever seen you in a hero's light! Ladybug yelled back. Her blue eyes looked around for Noir. He hadn't come yet, but she hoped that he would. He needed his help in distracting Lila so she could grab the phone and destroy it. A projectile was thrown at her side, just barely grazing her. Ladybug yelped. Oh, losing your skill, I see? Lila taunted. Ladybug shot her a fierce glare. Not a chance, she said, running around the streets, grappling her yo-yo. Lila cried out indigently and chased after her with vigor. Ladybug smirked. Lila was losing control. Perfect. The less Lila was focused on protecting her phone, the better and easier it would be to, break it. It was a phone after all. I'm really starting to wonder if it has anything to do with that lovely little blonde Adrian boy. From earlier, Lila said with a terrible smirk. Ladybug felt herself freeze and she nearly missed her throw. What on earth are you talking about? She said stiffly, getting back into fighting mode. There's no time for stupid marionette freeze-ups today, and definitely not now. Lila hummed happily. Just that annoying blonde guy that everyone's always talking about. She continued idly. I don't even know why. Sure, let's be honest, he's kind of pretty cute, but the boy has no talent at all. I hear he fences, but all the judges are probably paid off, and his opponent, that Asian chick, is totally throwing up for his hots, she said, making Ladybug's blood boil. How dare Lila say those things about Adrian? He had so much talent in him. He worked so hard to win his fencing competitions and in no way was being handed anything. And he was certainly a good view to look at. Ladybug gritted her teeth at Lila, growing more irate at the girl every second. Aren't you supposed to be dating that model, though? She forced out. Lila laughed and waved her hand away. Sure. I'm just being nice. I can't help if he's smitten with me. I totally get why, though. Ladybug laughed humorlessly. I don't really think he's into fraud, so I'm not quite sure he is. I know you're faking it, though. It's kind of obvious, she said with an accusing voice. Lila raised a brow at her. Oh, and what's it to you? Why do you care about the boy? He's just a mop of pretty hair. Nothing that special. He is very special to me and a wonderful friend at that, so you may shut your mouth, Ladybug burst out. Lila tilted her head and laughed. Sure, whatever you want to say, she said in a sing-song voice. Suddenly, a whirl of black and silver passed by Lila, knocking her to the ground with a loud cry. Ladybug smiled. Her partner was finally here. You're late, kitty, she said with a laugh. The grinning cat bounced to her side as Ladybug threw down her yo-yo to catch Lila with the string. Fashionably late, my dear Ladybug. The best kind, he said with a cheeky smile. Ladybug laughed at that. Well, it's good enough. Her Akuma's in her phone, Ladybug said, pointing to the phone sticking from Lila's belt. Chat Noir raised a brow at her. That's kind of on the nose, he said. Ladybug nodded. Yeah. Teenage girl phone. Just break it, she said. He raised his hands, paused, in mock surrender and went to grab the device. Oh, you guys think that's bad? He called me gossip, Lila said, not even flinching when Chat took the phone. He paused and looked at her like a seriously kind of expression. Lila rolled her eyes. Yeah, me too. Ladybug, however, looked at her suspiciously. Why aren't you fighting for it back? She said, tightening the yo-yo. Lila threw a horrible face at her. You and him asking. Good God. Can either of you chill for like 1 second? Lila cried out, rolling her eyes. Besides, I got what I wanted to get, and you're just gonna have to figure out what it is. A wicked smirk made its way into Lila's face. Chat Noir and Ladybug exchanged a look. Okay, clearly something was happening, and it probably wasn't good. That was weirdly quick, don't you think? Ladybug said to Chat Noir when everything was cleaned up. Lila had been transformed back to normal, and unknowingly so, was welcomed back to her friends with open arms. Not Alia and Nino, though. They had kept a distance, and she made a mental note to tell her friends just how much she loved them. It was, Chat agreed, looking far away into the distance and then back at Ladybug. He frowned. She's awfully calm about it, considering the fact that she said she got everything she needs. Ladybug thought worriedly and bit her lip. Well, I think we should be worried about... I really think that we should be worried about what's to come. Chat Noir shook his head fervently and placed a hand on her shoulder. No, we shouldn't, he said seriously. We can't just begin to panic about everything that comes our way that could mean anything difficult. We're gonna have to take it as it comes. It'll all work out, he told her. Ladybug smiled at her partner. As goofy as he was also sometimes more level-headed than she even was. Thanks, Cat, she said with a smile. He grinned. Anytime, he winked. She scoffed and rolled her eyes playfully. What was that little stunt of yours? Gabriel seethed at the teenage girl in front of him. Of course, a kid would blow it. This was a terrible idea. Lila rolled her eyes like an insufferable teenager. You know, I kind of learned some pretty crucial information, and there you go, screaming and whatever, she said, crossing her arms. Gabriel looked at her with a harsh stare. Then explain why you didn't take their Miraculouses. The girl smirked proudly. You do realize that Ladybug stated that Adrienne is a very important and special person to her, right? She started. Gabriel wanted to scoff. And that is relevant because? Lila looked at him blankly. Wow. You know, I really thought you would get it. Guess not, she said, clicking her tongue twice. She spilled that she knows Adrienne on a personal level. She and him are friends. You do realize that we can use that to our advantage, right? We can take her Miraculous when she's caught off guard. When she's with her friends. As a civilian. Lila deadpanned. That made the wheels turn in Gabriel's mind. The girl had a point. Adrian's friends were rather limited, only his school friends and some from fencing. It wouldn't take long to narrow it down, and Adrian was always begging to have friends over. I like your idea, Gabriel said. Lila rolled her eyes, muttering, You better have, like an insolent teenager. He pinched the bridge of his nose, but made up his mind. You have tact. Who are his closest friends? We should start with them. Lila raised her brow at him. Adrienette, Ollie, and Nino, duh, she said. Gabriel nodded. That is all. You may see yourself out. I will contact you when your help is needed, he instructed. Lila huffed and turned towards the door, leaving Gabriel in the big room by himself to plan. That is, till Natalie stepped in and silently asked for his plan. Adrian has always wanted a party, hasn't he? It'd only be fair to give one to him, Gabriel said, lips curling. He thundered out of his room and to Adrian, knocking on the door. He stoically called out to his son. Yes, father? I have thought over some things. What are they? It was very unfair of me to not allow you to have a birthday party with your friends. So I would like to inform you that your schedule is cleared out and you may have 3 friends over. The grin on Adrian's face was beyond bright and wide. Really, father? Gabriel nodded, and without warning, Adrian hugged his side. Thank you, he said on his side. Gabriel's smile softened and he placed his hands on Adrian's back. Truly, he had no idea how he'd gotten such a sweet and kind son. Of course, son.